Welcome to Just Talking About Jesus. I'm Jan Johnson, a seasoned believer who loves relationships and, just talking about Jesus.
But what does that mean? It means that 2 days before the injections, I'm begging God to hurry up. And 2 days afterward, I'm grateful that I've got another 3 or 4 months before I have to do it again. But that doesn't mean I'm going to slow down. It just means I am more committed to doing something good anyhow. He'll never leave me. He's going to be with me always. And I'm going to do something good for him anyhow, daily, every day, no matter how I feel, no matter what, if I'm in the hospital or if I'm sitting on the back porch, it doesn't matter. I am going to do something good for him. And that commitment to he's always been there for me, I will be always there for him is really a deep thing for me. It's not just going through the motions. It is part of my spiritual DNA.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad that you are here joining me today along with David Ebel. David was born dying, subject to a medical experience at 1 day old, carrying 21 birth defects and living in chronic pain from age 6. By 20, he had made 5 suicide attempts. Then he walked into a church because a girl was cute, found Jesus, and nothing was ever the same. Isn't that just like our God? In this episode, David walks us through an extraordinary life shaped by obedience. From dressing as a clown to share the gospel with children, to 12 years of road ministry in 49 states, to planting a church in inner city Detroit, to serving as chaplain inside Cook County Jail, and building a Salvation Army Corps from the ground up. He talks openly about living with chronic pain, his book, When the Doctors Say No, God Says Yes, and his podcast, God Says Yes, and why he wakes up every morning asking, "What's my adventure today, Lord?" This is a conversation about what happens when you say yes to God and you never look back. Welcome, David. So happy to have you here today. Welcome, everyone, to Just Talking About Jesus. So glad that you're joining us today, whether you are watching or listening or both, whichever way it is, we are happy to have you. My guest today is David Ebel. So glad to have you, David. Thank you.
Thank you.
David has so many things that we could talk about, but we can start with a fun fact. In his background there, you can see a picture of a clown. Tell us about that.
Well, when I gave my life to Jesus at 20, I had never known anything about ministry or even about Jesus. I was raised without it, and my life was horrible. When I gave my life to Christ, God put it on my heart that what a better person my life would have been if I had known Jesus as a kid. And my training in high school and college was theater, so I knew what performance should be, and dressed up as a clown and did a 1 day vacation Bible school. I was about 3 months in my faith, so they got what I knew. And it lasted about 45 minutes, but it was a first shot. But during it, there was a little voice in my heart that said, "You keep telling me you'll do anything for me. We'll go love my kids." So I took that as a challenge, and I found performers and had them teach me their skills. And I tied them all together and had a professional clown teach me how to do clowning. Excuse me. And once I did, people started seeing that I did it, and they would book me for this or for that for 1 day things. When my wife and I got married, she and I branched out and even added puppets to it, and that's what we were doing. And eventually, the clowning ended up I did youth camps and did all kinds of things, and we were winning souls, not a couple of souls. We were winning an average of 800 to 1,000 souls a year. And, for a guy who can't even keep myself straight, we have no illusions there.
Isn't it amazing the avenues that God takes, to reach different people?
And then the door happened that God changed channels for me. What I was doing, he decided was not what I was going to be doing. So I moved to South Georgia, and I was living in Wisconsin at the time. I moved to South Georgia and went on the road doing kids and family ministry in little churches in the South.
Mm.
And it did it as the clown. And that's where the Kids Celebration Circus came from, which was the theme. And we had everything custom made, and the costumes and everything that we did was handmade, one of a kind, collectible. So my thinking is that God didn't send his second cousin Louis to the cross. He sent his best. How dare we offer less?
Mhm.
So my standard in whatever I do for God is going to be the best shot I can give. Now, there can be better, but it's still my best shot. Now, if I can get better, the next time will be better, but it's never going to have to be apologized for. So we went on the road, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And then eventually word got out in the performing community that I was doing it, and performers invited me to go to a clown convention. And, I mean, they've got conventions for everything else in the world. Why not? So I went and ran into some real pros who really invested in me, really encouraged me. And out of that, I improved and I improved and I studied. And it wasn't long before I was being booked all over the nation.
Mm.
And we stayed on the road 12 years. We hit 49 states in 20 countries. And by other people, when I go and I go to a place and present, I always had the altar call at the end.
Mm.
And the deal was that the host had to count how many life changes happened.
Oh.
An evangelist who tells you, I had 500 people. How can I count 500 while I'm doing my job? So I think sometimes it's ego driven, and I'm not saying it is in every case, but it can be. And so for me, I always had them tell me, who came forward, who was life changed, not how many times they came. I don't count them 7 times if they came forward 7 times.
Yeah.
I want to know how many life changes there were. And by the counts of other people, there was over 25,000 counts in 12 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, again, I can't keep me straight. So I'm just the mailman. I just deliver the message. Everything else is up to God.
And isn't it interesting how when you say yes to God, even though you don't really know what it's all the future is gonna hold with it, or how you're gonna do it, or how you're gonna do it, you just take the step, and God just shows you one step at a time. Just one
Yeah,
step
well,
at
that's
a
about all
time.
we can manage.
Right, right, and then yeah.
And see, I was born with disabilities. I was dying at birth, and they used it in a medical experiment at 1 day old. And the side effects were so profound. 4 months after it was done to me, it became illegal to do it to humans. I
Mhm.
have 21 birth defects. I started juvenile rheumatoid arthritis at 6. So between 6 and 20, my life was not okay.
Mhm.
I lived in chronic pain. I was the littlest kid in the school. They thought I was going to be a dwarf. I outgrew dwarf, but you know, at 8th grade, I was still at 3'1".
Wow.
And so, needless to say, I couldn't do sports, so I was bullied a lot. So I got into creative things. And when I gave my life to Christ, I went to college on handicap money. And one of the things that they would allow me to take with my disabilities was theater and broadcasting.
Mm.
So I was going for that. And about a year and a half in, I had a nervous breakdown, trying to be too much. And between there and the next 3.5 years, my life slid down a slope like somebody poured motor oil down it and just pushed. And I was 3 days from my 5th suicide attempt when I went to church because the girl was cute, good spiritual guy that I was, and found Jesus, dumped the girl, and God delivered me from drugs, alcohol, demon possession, a hemorrhaging ulcer, and called me to preach in an audible voice in one night.
Yeah. Well, you need to listen to this podcast episode because it's got some similar things in there. It was just, yeah, crazy things that happened.
And I mean, I didn't have enough theology to know what happened to me. Over
Mhm.
the next few weeks, I had people who mentored me to help me understand what happened because I could hardly work. I could hardly do anything. And I was just like a little kid at Christmas, but it was Christmas, but never stopped. I was overwhelmed and overstimulated by everything. It was so good. And that was 1973.
And there's more people than not that hear audible voices of the Lord. you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
it just
he's
people,
generous if we're listening.
yeah, people don't just, they just think, oh, well, he's out there someplace, or, he's not going to talk to me. Why would he talk to me? But he does talk to us,
Yeah.
and maybe it's just a thought in your head or your heart like that. But I have heard only one
Yeah.
time, but an audible voice, and it was, yeah, okay, that's all right. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think God speaks biblically. There's the little wind, there's the mighty wind, and in my case, there's the 2x4. So, however he can get our attention, so he can keep us on track. That's how he's going to reach us. A miracle is when God moves, whether we recognize it or not.
And how do you recognize God's voice?
For me, it's really clear. It's like someone sitting right here, talking right here. Even though I'm not hearing it, it's that intimate.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I know. And because I experienced it the first day and experienced it, like, on and off again through 50 years plus, it's a familiar voice.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's got to be like a 2x4, because I'm distractible.
As we all are.
I was ADD before they had letters for it. So
I think too, for me, it's like when I just call them God drops, like all of that. I'm not doing whatever it is, focusing on whatever this message is going to be at the time, but it'll be something like, yeah, you should start a podcast. Okay, I'm not really sure how to do that. Yeah, if that's what you want, show me what to do, or the books that I write, he always tells me what the title's going to be, or what it's going to be about ahead of time, or things. So yeah, it's just something like, not that I thought of, I know that I didn't just come out and think
yeah,
about, think of this.
it's got to be inspired, or I don't have the energy. Because I now that I know I can be creative,
Mm,
it's really hard to know what God wants me to do with all of the stuff he's given me the ability to do. So I really have to be diligent to make sure I hear.
yeah, yeah. So you've done all kinds of things in your life. You became a new person at a fairly young age,
Yeah.
right? What kind of things in retrospect do you feel like, where you can see the pathway that God, because this happened, he led you to this and it resulted in something else? Tell us a few things like that.
Sure. Well, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, because I know that time is of the essence. When I started doing the kids ministry, we were invited to go to the ghetto of Detroit. We lived in the suburbs of Detroit, and there was a guy who had taken an old hand-built church that was, I mean, this was like a German handmade church. They had all the gingerbread and all that, and he was rebuilding a church in an old building in a very violent, very scary neighborhood. And I went to help out and do one set Sunday morning, and stayed 5.5 years. This is Evangelism and Outreach Director, and planted a Christian coffee house that went over 400 people, and worked full time. So, I was doing 18-hour days, 7 days a week for 5.5 years.
Yeah.
But my thinking was that I wasn't supposed to live past 20 from all the stuff that happened to me. So this is all bonus time. So I better dig in, because I didn't know how long I'd last before heaven. So I wanted to get it all in. So I just went after it, jumped off the cliff of faith and did it. And from that experience, I learned church planting.
Mm-hmm.
From that experience, I learned evangelism. From that experience, I learned a lot of practical things that later in my life I would use over and over and over and over again. But when I got there, I was helping up for one day, and when he said, "Why don't you stay and help me out?" I said, "Nope, not going to do that." "Why not?" "Well, aren't you going to pray about it?" "No, I don't have to. I know what God's got for me. I'm good." And I went home, and my wife says, "You going to pray?" "No, I don't think so." "You're not going to be happy if you don't pray." "Okay." Well, 3 days later, every time I tried to pray, "You promised him. You promised him.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't talked to me." So I talked to him, and he said, "Stay."
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did. And when that was done, then I went to Chicago and planted a church and ended up as the assistant staff chaplain at Cook County Jail, the most violent jail in America. I did that for a couple of years. With the knowledge I got from Detroit, I was well equipped to do that. And then when that was done, then I went to Wisconsin and tried to keep a church open that should have been closed. But when that was done, I went on the road.
Mm.
And then when I came off the road, it was because my body would no longer handle the travel.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent me to a little town in California that needed this. I'm a Salvation Army officer.
Mm.
So they wanted to put a Salvation Army in this little town, needed somebody to do it, and I was available, so they sent me. And God went ahead of me and prepared the hearts of the people. We went from no address to 28,000 square feet of debt-free space in 6 years.
Yeah.
That's all God.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us some about your prison, working in the prison.
Well, I mostly did. Cook County Jail is where they put people on their way to.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the worst kind of transitional. And the only difference in ghetto Detroit and Cook County Jail was there was less weapons out in the open. And I mean, I saw some blood all over the place in the jail. You know, it was not an easy place to be. But after 5.5 years of wandering on the streets of the ghetto, it was like, okay, and I had no fear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, looking back, maybe if I hadn't had God in my life, I would have been terrified.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no fear. I knew I was doing what God told me to do. And we led people to the Lord, and to have them then go confess that they'd murdered people and volunteer for whatever that meant. Go, you know, and a couple of them actually ended up in the electric chair after I led them to the Lord, because they knew they were forgiven, and they knew they were going to heaven, and they knew they deserved their body to be destroyed. And so they made their peace on their own and came back and told me. But we discipled them as much as we could, as long as I was there. But so it's everything it's like stacking dominoes.
Yeah.
One thing builds on another, which builds on another, which builds on another. And the end, you can see the whole process.
Right.
But while you're doing it, you're dealing with the domino in front of you.
Exactly. You know, it reminds me of the story of Joseph. All the things, who would have known that getting thrown into a pit is going to lead you to Egypt, to Potiphar's house, to being in jail, to ending up having dreams and, you know, doing all of all the layers of everything that God puts together, because he's building you for the next thing, you know. He's building your skills and who you are and whatever to be able to enable you to do that very next thing.
I agree. I think that God always equips us before he sends us, because he's not going to deny himself one good thing.
We were talking about Joseph and how God layered all the things in his life to get him to his ultimate purpose, which was saving his nation of Egypt, and how he does that with our own lives. So many things, you know. Even when you were in, was it Detroit, where it was inner city and hard things, and then you ended up in a prison that was the same kind of things and layered things for that. Yeah, it's just amazing how he's done that. And I think absolutely God doesn't waste anything.
No.
You know, free will, yes, we have free will. He kind of wants us here, and we might go this way, but he kind of eventually gets us back to that spot he wants us to be, right?
That's what the Holy Spirit's for.
And as he does that, he uses it with the variety of things. Like, I mean, you were drinking, you did drugs, you were suicidal, you had a bunch of things in your life that were not so great, right?
Yeah.
And yet, I'm going to guess that he's directed you to people like yourself.
I have had friends who I led to the Lord who later said, "You were the best dirt magnet I've ever known." because not only you drew me, but then after that, through my friends, you drew them. So, because you've been through it, you get it.
Exactly. Exactly. And why do we love Jesus so much? He went through everything imaginable. He was
Exactly.
rejected, he was abused, he had good times, but he had a lot of bad times, and he went through grief and all the
Betrayal,
things,
all of it.
everything, you know, that we're going to relate to, which we know is why we can trust him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, to me, the greatest gift is I wake up in the morning and he's not done with me yet. I've been ready for heaven for a long time, but when I wake up and I'm not in heaven, it's like, oh, okay. But what are we going to do today?
Yeah.
What's my adventure today, Lord?
Yeah. 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 Because here I am. Show me what you want me to do.
Yeah, what I don't want to do is sit around and just be like some of the people I know who basically they turn on the TV and they're done for the day.
Yeah. That's not me.
That's not heaven. That's not heaven on earth, and that's not heaven ever.
No, that's
That's
not me. Mm-mm.
no, I have pain that some days kind of sidelines me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not productive that day. But that doesn't mean I quit. It just means I have a less productive day.
Let's talk about that a little bit with
Sure.
living with chronic illness and how that does kind of stop you sometimes, and how
Yeah.
have you been able to, like, what are some things that you grasp onto, scriptures or things that grasp onto, or characteristics of God that help you through that?
Well, the main scripture is I'll never leave you or forsake you. I'll be with you always. And when I was a brand new Christian, I heard a wonderful black preacher, and he preached for an hour on always.
Mm,
And everybody was on their feet and everybody was weeping, and just because he was like he found a whole room full of nails and he was just driving those nails home, and he was hitting the mark on every single one. And out of that, when I am having difficult days, I know that the rough days are just rough days.
mm,
They're just a difficult day. And many of us will have rough days. It may not be pain. It may be depression that tries to get a grip on us. It might be someone betrays us,
mm,
or we loan someone money, and they won't pay us back. I mean, there's lots of these kind of things that can sink a nail into you, so you're not free flowing like you were when everything was good. Or in my case, bad days, pain. Shoot, I end up having to have injections in my neck just so I can be civil.
mm.
But what does that mean? It means that 2 days before the injections, I'm begging God to hurry up. And 2 days afterward, I'm grateful that I've got another 3 or 4 months before I have to do it again.
Mm,
But that doesn't mean I'm going to slow down. It just means I am more committed to doing something good anyhow.
mhm.
I think always and anyhow are two of my big ones. He'll never leave me. He's going to be with me always, and I'm going to do something good for him anyhow, daily, every day, no matter how I feel, no matter what. If I'm in the hospital or if I'm sitting on the back porch, it doesn't matter. I am going to do something good for him,
Mhm, mhm.
and that commitment to he's always been there for me. I will be always there for him is really a deep thing for me. It's not just going through the motions. It is part of my spiritual DNA. I am rewoven into the product that he wants me to be, and that means faithful.
Mhm.
And that I'm not amazing. I'm faithful.
Yeah. Yeah.
God
A
is
lot to
amazing.
be a lot to be said for that. I interviewed my friend Angie Clayton, and she has lived with chronic pain for years and years, but she put together an anthology called Chosen, which is coming out soon. But her idea is we're chosen for those hard things. We're chosen for those hard places because God needs us to be there. God needs us to take us through it, but also to be there for somebody else.
Yeah, we're an open book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we're living transparently, we're living as an open book read by all men. Jesus gets to shine through us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not a fun house mirror where it's all bent out of shape because we're in the way. We are a transparent vessel that he can shine clearly through. And there's none of us left behind. It's just pure him.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So you wrote a book. Tell us about your book.
The book is called When the Doctors Say No, God Says Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's the story of my life. It's, you know, how when the doctors were very plain that I wasn't going to live, and then I wasn't going to live, and then I wasn't going to live. I mean, this has been a song and a dance my whole growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we got to the chapter I'm at now, there's been 7 times they've said, "Well, that's it." You know, yeah. So doctors practice, God perfects. So I take advice, and then I go back to the great physician and say, "Now, what do you want to do about that?" Because obviously, the doctor gets paid. So the only way I can pay him back is to love him more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to be my body's not going to stop until it stops. I'm not going to give him. I don't give up ground easily. I've had people say, "You're the stubbornest man I know," and I said, "Is that a compliment?" And they say, "In you, it is." And I have to go back and have to say, "Please explain," because usually when you say someone's stubborn, that's not a compliment.
Yeah.
What they mean is that I'm driven.
Yeah.
That God has called me, and I have a passion, and no one or nothing's going to slow me down. And so to them, that's a compliment.
What is the main point that you want people to carry away from reading your book?
That if I can go through it and come out victorious, man, you got it easy. You can do it too. You don't have to go through every knothole I went through. You don't have to suffer everything I've suffered. You'll have your own battles. You'll have your own challenges. But the same God who was there for me from hello is going to be there for you as soon as you are open to hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we published the book, the editor of the book was the opposite of the Christian. And so he went through it and said to me, "This book is BS." And I said, "Well, thank you." Except he didn't use the initials. And I said, "Thank you so much." He said, No, you have to understand. I look at books every day. No human being can have lived through all this. You had to make this up. And I said, "No, and it's all documentable." He says, "Prove it."
Okay.
And I said, "All right." And he said, "How do I prove it?" He said, "I want you to go through your book and all this stuff that seems like it's too much. I want you to call those victories, and I want to see every victory in a row on a page.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'm not going to ever believe you. And if I don't believe you, your book's not getting published through us."
Huh.
Thank you. I feel so much better now. So and I do not like sitting down and doing homework. Oh, I never have. And I'll wake up in heaven going, "Thank you. No more homework." But I did it. And it took me better part of a week with my ADD mind to keep focused long enough to get it done. But I got it done.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent it in. And when they published the book, in the appendix, there's a thing called the Note from David, which is how to give your life to Jesus step by step by step, including what to pray and how to reach me if you want to know more. Mm-hmm. But then the next appendix I didn't know about, he put that in the book as all my victories.
Oh.
So he validated every claim without me even realizing he was doing it.
Huh.
That's pretty good stuff from a guy who don't believe.
Well, how do you know that maybe at this point he does?
Well, we know that, we were there to plant seed.
Yeah.
Everything else is not my business.
Exactly. It's not our job. Yeah.
I'm grateful that I learned very early in my faith that I don't get to play God.
Yeah.
Because I can't even be my own God, much less take care of everybody else. So
and who wants to be in control of all of those things that you aren't in control of,
No,
yeah.
I learned that before I ever got saved. I knew that before I knew that Jesus was a way out.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand the way that I was in, and that's why suicide looks so tempting. Mm-hmm. Is because I just couldn't handle what was going on.
Mm.
You know, shoot, I drove it. The day before Christmas. I drove a car off a bridge over a river at 100 miles an hour.
And yet here you are.
It was Michigan. The river was frozen. I hit mud and dragged a tree out by the roots that was bigger around than a dinner plate. They towed the car out and I drove it home. Tell me
And
the
God says,
angels.
nope, not this time.
Tell me the angels haven't had their due trick keeping me alive long enough. There's 3 overdoses, a car off a cliff, and then 3 days from a rifle.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
I mean, and I've had people say, you're so joyful. Well,
Yeah.
wouldn't you be under the circumstances? You
When you
know?
find out that there's a God who loves you and he still
Yeah.
wants you around and you have value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if he could do it with me, what can he do for you?
Yeah.
What amazing things are waiting for you out there,
Mhm.
in spite of your limited predisposition to failure. Most people think they're going to fail anyhow, so they don't try, like jumping off a cliff faith. They get their toe in the water and go, do I want to go further?
Yeah.
Now, when I gave my heart to Jesus, it was off the cliff and never looked back.
Yeah. Best thing that ever happened, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, shoot, I've had people say, "What? Don't you want to go back? Well, you want to buy the gun?" I mean, just because that's all. That was what back would be to me. Is
Mhm.
I would you go ahead and get the gun and finish the job. I've lived so much since then. I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
There's nothing in that anybody I can imagine would voluntarily look forward to in their right mind.
Mhm. For sure. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Well,
I'm in a heavenly mind now.
you also have a podcast. Tell us about that.
It's called God Says Yes. Yes, I stole it from the book title. But the reason I did is because when I started mentioning to people I was considering doing a podcast, they kept saying, "Why are you calling it God Says Yes?" So I'm, okay, we'll try it. You can always change it if it doesn't work.
Right.
It's not as carved in steel. So I did, and the response has been phenomenal. Every issue I'm getting comments, and I'm not looking for perfect people. I'm looking for people who God is perfecting.
Mhm.
I'm our guests. I don't want perfect people. I don't want the great theologian who can only talk in 25-cent words.
Right.
But all I want to do with it is get people to realize that God loves them. We were custom made by God to love. That we were created from the inside out. So that's why He created us to be like Him. He didn't create us to look like Him. He created us to be like Him.
Mhm.
So as a result, we don't have to look alike. As a matter of fact, even twins don't look alike from the inside out. We're individuals because he loved us individually. He created us independently. And as a result, his love for us never changes except deeper.
Yeah. Wow. What a God we serve, right? What a God.
And so that's the whole podcast, is getting people to go from who I was to who I is to who I believe I'm going to be.
Love that. I love that. Where can people find you?
My website is my name, davidwebel.com.
Okay.
And you can order the book through that. Yeah, you can look at all the pretty pictures on the website. I am a photographer. And
I'll put links in the show notes for that. And yeah, what a blessing this has been. Thank you so much for being part.
I'm so honored that you invited me. Thank you so much.
Hey, my friends, thanks so much for joining us today on Just Talking About Jesus. That was a pretty incredible story that David shared. 5 suicide attempts. Whew. Just the grace that God had to have him remain on the earth with us to share his story. Oh, man. What a reminder that God truly does not waste a single thing in our lives. If David's story encouraged you, I would love for you to share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. Speaking of subscribing, if you are watching on YouTube, subscribe there. Or if you are popping into the Substack newsletter. You can subscribe there as well. That way you just keep getting things. I mean, who doesn't want to have 3 things in their box from Jan Johnson every week, right? Oh, my goodness. You can find David at davidwe.com. That's DAVID, capital WE.com. Grab his book, When the Doctors Say No, God Says Yes. And check out his podcast, God Says Yes, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm going to leave you with these 2 scriptures, Hebrews 13:5, I will never leave you nor forsake you, and Matthew 28:20, I am with you always to the end of the age. Until next time, keep your eyes on Jesus, the one who always shows up. He always makes a way. He always says yes, so when the world says no. I can't wait to be with you next week. Have you been able to look at some of the Substack newsletters that I've sent out?
I have.
What do you think?
I love it. It gives you just enough information that I'm just chomping at the bit to hear the whole. I want the whole podcast. I love the information on there. It just gives a little bit more of, oh, okay, that's what this is going to be about.
Yeah. And it's a pretty quick read.
Oh, it's totally quick. It's an easy read, which is helpful, again, in the fast pace we live in.
Yeah. And the links are in there as well. And so it's shareable and whatever. So, yeah, if you haven't tried that out, all right, give it a try.